Y esta manera de ofrecer ideas o dar recomendaciones se llama el subjuntivo. El subjuntivo se llama in inglés subjunctive, which right now sounds kind of new and kind of foreign, but don't you worry. This is all we're going to be doing the rest of the semester, and you will see this concept again at the beginning of 202. So today this is very new. However, you will become very used to this, very familiar with this concept, the subjunctive. So commands are very, very direct. They're very direct, like we were just talking about. And in class the other day, un error. Estudiantes, limpian sus casas frecuentemente. Here's an example of a command telling you to do what? Clean your houses frequently. Very, very direct, okay? However, now we're going to see what's called the subjunctive, which is used to soften that, to not be so direct, not so short and sweet. And the subjunctive is saying, es importante que ustedes limpien sus casas frecuentemente. So what's changed? What's changed? What's made this longer and softer? Instead of just saying, clean your houses frequently, now I'm saying what? Repeat that?
It's important.
It's important that you clean your houses. So this is like much softer, less direct. And when we express recommendations, offer suggestions, and we use this K as a connector, remember in chapter 9, learning about connectors like K and quien? K here is being used as a connector with this es importante que, and now I'm talking to y'all and telling you to clean your houses. So the context has changed, but has the grammar? Look at the verb limpiar. Is it any different? Has anything changed? No. So this is good news for you. 2-for-1 special in chapter 12, and you're going to do this the rest of the semester, and you're going to see this again when you kick off Spanish 202. You're going to go to the O, drop the O, and change it to the opposite of what you know for like the next 3 months of your life in Spanish class, okay? Because you're going to spend a lot of time with the subjunctive, and you might be wondering why. This seems so simple. You just soften a command by using like es importante que or recomienda que. How hard can that possibly be? But what becomes a little tricky about the subjunctive is knowing when to use it and when not to use it. So when we talked about the preterite and imperfect, I gave you an acronym, TWEED, and I was like, if it falls under this acronym, it's basically the imperfect at the 201 level. For the subjunctive, you're going to have to decide as to whether or not you use it based on the phrase that comes before this K. Because not all phrases that come before the K are giving advice. So at the end of the semester, well actually at the end of this chapter, I'm going to give you a list of uses of the subjunctive that won't necessarily apply to our final exam, but that I want you to take with you to 202, just in case your professor doesn't give you that acronym with all these lists of uses with the subjunctive. Why? Because we learned in chapter 9 we can connect two ideas with K. So just saying, oh, there's a K, my verb's going to come in the subjunctive isn't sufficient enough. We need to recognize that the phrase before the K is giving advice, giving a recommendation, es importante que, or le recomienda que. But then when you conjugate your verb, you're just going to the O, dropping the O, and changing it to the opposite of what you know, what you did with your commands. So, no es muy difícil. Okay, so le recomienda should really be les recomienda. Profeseta les recomienda que ustedes. And why did I change that le to les? Is that les referring to profeseta, or is it referring to ustedes? Ustedes, and this is important to note, especially on the super site. In Spanish 202, your professor may or may not go over this, so I want you to pay close attention to the following. Sometimes who we're giving the recommendation to is indicated with a subject pronoun like ustedes or tú, or ellos or Paco y Maria. But sometimes the subject, the form that determines your verb conjugation of your verb after the K isn't quite clear. And when it's not clear, look for a pronoun in that first clause, in that first, before that first verb. So if it said te recomienda, you know this verb would be in the to form. It would be more specific. Profeseta recommends that you don't get your clothes dirty. If it said te recomienda, we'll practice these later. Otro ejemplo. Ustedes acuéstense temprano durante la semana is saying what? This was our example from our commands the other day, on Monday. Acuéstense temprano durante la semana is saying what?
You should get up early during the week.
Right, exactly. Get up early during the week. And that was a command, and when we had a command, we had to attach our pronoun on the end of our command when we tell somebody to do something. However, when we conjugate this in the subjunctive, we're going to go back to what we know about pronouns and put our pronoun where in relationship to the verb? Before it. Okay, so the grammar is essentially the same. It's the tone. The tone has changed. Now we're saying what? Es necesario que? We're saying what? It's necessary that. So it's a little softer. Does that make sense? It's just a little bit softer. Okay, so to review, it's softer. The grammar is the same. We have phrases that are connected by a K. And what you're going to have to do in the rest of 201 and in 202 is decide if that phrase at this point is the following. Is it an impersonal expression that reflects an emotion or an opinion or a recommendation? So if you see S plus an adjective that falls under that category and you have a K that's connecting it, then your next verb, your subsequent verb, your dependent verb is going to be in the subjunctive. Meaning what? When you conjugate this verb, you're going to go to the O, drop the O, and change it to the opposite of what you know. So if I say, like, it's good that you all have patience, or it's good that you all speak Spanish, I would say, es bueno que ustedes hablen español, or tengan paciencia. Also, on page 316, there's more phrases that introduce the subjunctive. Do you need to memorize what each one of these phrases mean in English? Not really. Do you need to recognize that phrase and be able to recall that it's a form of a recommendation? Yes. And that's pretty easy with verbs like recomienda, right? Recomienda means what? Recommend. So what's another verb that's kind of obvious? You automatically know what it means in English just by looking at it, and therefore you can conclude, yeah, this would fall under a recommendation. Any other verbs? Importa. Prohíbe. Insiste. So these all look like some form of a recommendation, and we're familiar with these verbs. And now we're going to take what I'm telling you about these being recommendations and figure out the meaning of a couple verbs that seem less obvious, but will ultimately become very obvious when you relate them to, oh, this is a synonym for a recommendation. For example, this verb, sugiere, it doesn't mean to recommend, but it's a recommendation. So what do you think that means? What's a synonym for recommends? Suggests. Right, exactly. So sugiere means suggests. Anything else? Manda reminds us of what word?
Mandatory.
Yeah, mandatory. Mandatos. Exactly. Another recommendation. Anything else? So you're registering this week, a lot of you all, but before you register, you have to meet with your advisor who's giving you recommendations about what to take. What's a synonym for a recommendation in that context that has to do with your advisor? What does your advisor do? Advises, right? Advises. Aconseja. Okay, so now we're left with a couple more that aren't so obvious. We've actually seen pide before. Does anybody know what pide means? Pide pide, you can use it in un restaurante, like muchas personas piden pizza in mellow mushroom. Orders, sí, muy bien. That's what you saw in the chapter with food. And then also, muchos estudiantes vienen a mis horas de oficina porque me piden ayuda. Piden ayuda? They what? Students who come to office hours are coming because they're asking me for help. Piden ayuda, which means to ask. Me piden ayuda. Ayuda is help. Okay. So now I'm going to hand out this strip of 3 choices, and you can rip them apart. And so you have 3 different cards so that you can participate. We're just going to start off with mandato and subjuntivo, and then we'll throw in infinitivo. So I'm going to pass these out. I want you to tear them apart, and then we're just going to recognize. We're not going to conjugate anything. We're just going to look at these phrases and start warming up to see if we can even tell the difference between a mandato, which is a command, or subjuntivo, which is a subjunct. ¿Están listos? Mandato or subjuntivo. Ustedes van a indicar con sus papelitos. A ver. Mandato or subjuntivo. Indican con sus papelitos. A ver. Perfecto. Entienden muy bien. Es un mandato. ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué es un mandato? Aga. No? What's it saying? Miguel, what? Make your bed. Short and sweet. Very direct. Mandato. No? Make your bed. Mandato or subjuntivo? ¿Cuál es? Es un mandato. ¿Por qué? Juegue. No, what's it saying?
I'll go play tennis tomorrow.
Sí, with me. Exactly. Play tennis. Short and sweet. Remember, mandatos are commands. They're short and sweet. They're very direct. Subjunctive is much softer and has more words, more information. Mandato or subjuntivo, chicos? ¿Necesitas papá? Ah, no, tú tienes. Ok, muy bien. Subjuntivo. ¿Por qué? Es mejor que el barra, el suelo, después de dar una fiesta. So what's it saying? ¿Cómo se dice mejor? It was on a lot of chapter 10 tests. Better. It's better than. Or it's best that, depending on the context. It's better that. It's best that. This is like an opinion. Then we have this connector K. And since we're expressing a recommendation, opinion here, it affects this grammar. Okay? And notice el barra, not usted or ustedes. So mandatos, at this point, we've only learned how to tell a group of people or one person that we may not know very well to do something. However, with the subjunctive, and note this for the supersite and on your test, our subjunctive, even though we're going to the O, dropping the O, changing it to the opposite of what we know, can go in any form. Yo, tú, él, nosotros, ellos, Paco y Lucia. Okay? ¿Cuál es? ¿Mandato, subjuntivo, or infinitivo? Or actually, just mandato or subjuntivo? Mandato, ¿no? Muy bien. ¿Por qué? Clase, vaya a la biblioteca. What am I saying? Go to the library. Muy bien. Oh, I forgot to review this one. Sorry. That's okay. We'll talk about it here in a second. Even though I didn't review it, you figured it out? Qué inteligente! Subjuntivo! Magnifico! How did you know it was a subjunctive? I didn't go over it. Okay. Le ruega que. All of this affects this verb conjugation. Le ruega que means begs. Ruega is a little dramatic. It's like a telenovela, but they say it a lot in Spanish. You know, I beg that you, blah, blah, blah. And then when we do that, we use the subjunctive because we're expressing so much emotion, so many recommendations. Ruega means to beg. And when we see ruega, a form of ruega, rogamos, nosotros, with a K and a new subject and a new verb, our subsequent verb, our dependent verb, will be in the subjunctive. Okay, ahora, so since you're ready to do things without me going over them, let's just throw in infinitives, okay?
Yes.
Because I know you can do it. And have we ever used infinitives before in speaking Spanish? Me gusta correr. Necesito estudiar. Yes, of course we have. So I know you can do it. Tres opciones. Infinitivo, mandato, or subjuntivo. Excelente, chicas. Subjuntivo, ¿por qué? There's a K, but, you know, K is not what's always going to determine, because I can say, like, tengo un amigo que habla italiano. And if I say tengo un amigo que, that's just saying I have a friend that. That's not a recommendation whatsoever. And so I'm going to take the verb hablar and just say habla. Not going to the O and changing it the opposite of what you know. So K, remember in chapter 9, we weren't doing the subjunctive in chapter 9, but we were using K to connect two ideas into one sentence in chapter 9. So it's very important on day 1 of the subjunctive to not rely on the K in determining whether or not use a subjunctive. What determines whether or not we use a subjunctive? The words before the K. The words before the K. And what do we have here? Insiste que, which falls under the umbrella of recommendations, and therefore we use subjuntivo. Pongo la mesa. ¿Cuál es? ¿Infinitivo, mandato, o subjuntivo? Jorge, Jen, Sam, ¿qué piensan? ¿Cuál es? Oh, tú tienes tu respuesta. Perdón. Mandato. No pasa nada. Es mi culpa. Mandato, ¿por qué? Sacuda. Now what's it saying? Class. Dust the furniture. No? Muy directo. Muy inteligentes. Son muy inteligentes, chicos. Infinitivo. ¿Por qué? Es bueno ver. Okay, so what's it saying? It's good to watch or to see, you know, these PowerPoints on Oaks, especially before tests or the final exam. So if we're saying it's good to see and we're using an infinitive, why in the world would we ever use a subjunctive? If you can just say it's good to see, if you can just say like, es bueno ver, why would you want to use es bueno que and then conjugate this verb in the subjunctive? Let me ask you that question. Let me give you those examples in English. What's the difference, in not just grammar, but also contextually, in me saying it's good to watch the PowerPoints on Oaks versus it's good that Graham and Colin and Bailey watch the PowerPoints on Oaks? What's the difference between it's good to watch versus it's good that Colin, Graham, and Bailey watch? Specific. Exactly. This is like day one syllabus, blah, blah, blah. I'm just generically telling everybody, you know, these are the tips of being successful in Spanish class this semester. But now it's later in the semester. Now we've got the midterm grades. And now people are coming to my office and I'm talking to them specifically. And I could just say, you know, real directly, like, Graham. All right, Graham and Colin and Bailey, vean los PowerPoints and notes, por favor. Give them a command. But maybe I want to soften it a little bit and be like, well, es buena idea que vean los PowerPoints de gramática notes. No es muy necesario, pero es buena idea, no? So the context is different and it's much more specific. And that's what we use infinitives versus the subjunctive for. Okay, otro ejemplo. Infinitivo, mandato o subjuntivo. Ahora son expertos. Subjuntivo, muy bien, ¿por qué? Sí, recomiendo que almuerces. How are we supposed to know if this was a supersite? This is what I was talking about earlier. How am I supposed to know to put this verb in the to form, this verb almorzar in the to form? The te, right, exactly. So if you're not given a subject right here, then you need to hunt around before the verb to see if there's a pronoun in the phrase that comes before the K and help you out. Infinitivo, mandato o subjuntivo? ¿Cuál es? Todos saben muy bien, subjuntivo. ¿Por qué? Es malo que. What are we saying? What's bad? It's bad that Sylvia, what is she doing? Littering, right, exactly. Leaving trash behind, which is littering. Remember in chapter 10 we talked about dejar un mensaje? Because before chapter 11 we only knew the verb salir for to leave, but that means like to go out to leave. But dejar is to like leave something behind or leave a message, and in this case, leaving trash. Dejar, deje, suba. Magnífico. Infinitivo, ¿por qué? Es bueno hacer la cama. What am I saying? It's good to make the bed, just in general. So, like we were saying earlier, infinitives are when there's no specific subject, when there's not a K connecting a new subject, when we're just expressing pretty generic things like recomiendo almorzar todos los días. So that's when we use infinitives instead of the K with the subjunctive, or if we're being very generic and not giving a direct command. ¿Entienden? Okay, ¿por qué? Grabar esto. En el examen de la lección 12, el último examen del semestre, yo voy a darles ejemplos con mandatos, infinitivos, subjuntivos. On the test, you're just going to read the statement and you're just going to write infinitivo, mandato, subjuntivo, just like we just did. So I told you what the commands are going to be like on the test. And this isn't the only section with the subjunctive on the test, but this is an additional section on the test just to make sure you can recognize the difference and why these would be used in different ways. Okay? ¿Entienden? So, es muy buena idea que, subjuntivo, ustedes miren, subjuntivo de mirar, miren esta presentación de PowerPoint antes del examen. I would just go through those examples again that we just did, holding up these little sheets, so that you practice exactly how it's going to be on the test, because that's what you're going to be doing on the test.